All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Parasite the Maxim, episode 18.
You're getting closer and closer to the end. And
Yep.
And Tamura Reiko had a bit of a realization last episode that she cares about a human baby.
When will they find out?
They just found out. Or at least she just found out. Migi and Shinichi kind of found out. And if they take too long, Murano might find out.
And the government
might find out. So this is one of those things where, like, you know, you need to make sure that the conversation in roleplay, like, doesn't take too long because the DM's keeping track.
The DM, like, is actually counting the seconds for the movement.
There's a secret timer behind, like, that, you know, that divider.
Right.
Yeah,
But in this case, there's a potential. There's a potential that even if they do find out, they could end up spinning it the right way because the partner before he died basically gave Shinichi an out with the government.
Now, granted, he didn't say that it was Shinichi, and the fact that he just said my partner was a human kind of would make them think that it's just a human, and so Shinichi could say that I was his partner, but you know, they might not piece together that he's Parasite, but all kinds of things could happen. So yeah.
So we are in a pickle. We are in a situation where we have like soap opera level numbers of characters here at this park. Where we could have a big like, oh no, you, what?
The pellet with the poisons, dramatic with the palace.
Dramatic camera angle switch, and then one person accidentally fires their gun, and then it just all goes to pot. So let's hope that we get a good conversation between Tamura Reiko or Tamura Reiko or whatever, and Shinichi and Migi. So y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. I'm gonna sneeze now. All right, everyone, so be sure to check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, and then come back here for the discussion. Okay. This was the just quintessential climax of a lot of stuff that had been built up in this show, but an emotional convergence of multiple characters' arcs, culminating in Tamura Reiko's death and her sacrifice specifically for a human baby. That the only thing that she gained out of this, I think, was really the feeling that she was a part of the human race. Because what I'm so disappointed about in the plot kind of sense here is that she didn't try to convince them. She didn't make an effort to speak to them and to interact because she's basically banking on the Shinichi has nothing to do with this. She's basically passing the torch on to him and saying, I'm going to tell you everything that I've learned. Please take this farther than I could. Take this baby and let them live a normal life. Because I've realized that we are a part of the human race together. We're all underneath the same umbrella. We're connected. And I don't have anything more I can give now that I've been put into this situation because of the investigator guy.
Well, she could have, but it would have taken some high persuasion rolls, let's say.
Well, it not only would have done that, but it possibly could have ruined Shinichi's connection with, humanity.
That is potentially true.
Because for all she knew, there was someone else watching this whole thing.
Sure. Right. And if it's a known thing that like they could get Shinichi for being like, well, if you know that she's killed all these people, why didn't you stop her, right?
Exactly.
But in this way, Shinichi's in the clear, except that he's not because of this, which she couldn't have foreseen. She couldn't have predicted. However,
but
Shinichi does have a lot of things that he can say because I'm guessing, like, they didn't actually show it at the end of this episode, like that, oh, he's a parasite or whatever, right? So they could have it be something else, but there's something. So he's probably going to get outed as a parasite. But the thing is that what were you going to say?
I was going to say that there's a possibility that the reason why he had that look of, wait, look at me in the eye, was because he wasn't 100% certain, but he's encountering something new for the first time. And the idea that Shinichi being both the new type of parasite, basically, the one that's melded more with human, is that he's not one of them.
Yeah, okay.
He's one of us and one of them.
Sure, yeah, and that would go along with the detectives thing if he's a human, because if you were to look at like with the parasites, their eyes are just dead, just straight up dead, right? And with Shinichis, usually when people make eye contact with them for too long, they can see that there's something beyond.
They show basically like these
it's like the Sauron eye flash, when you touch the ring, right? But the thing is that he still looks like a person, right? It's not as obvious as with a parasite,
and he's retained a lot of his humanity traits.
Absolutely. And like he broke down crying in front of all of them, so that's one thing, and then if he brings up, like, he has a lot of things that he can bring up, like, no, this is I've done things against the parasite specifically to try and save people, but I've also been trying to keep quiet about my secret and whatnot. I think Shinichi has a real shot of working with the government,
becoming an asset to them, in addition to being a liaison to future parasites that they interact with in a better version that this guy is. Because I think that what this guy is he's the best they've got.
He's the kana equivalent that they have basically on their payroll, and they bring him in and they're like, do you get the sense?
We'll slowly lower your sentence or something like that every time you cooperate with us. And it's like he's probably in prison for 150 years for all the crazy stuff he's done.
10 life sentences or something ridiculous.
Something ridiculous. And they're like, we'll remove a life sentence or remove,
Or now that we've verified, because they were saying this was going to be the proof test to see if this is actually legit. And then it's like, okay, you can do this, and now we can start out a working relationship kind of thing.
Right. But I love that they used the double blind of having there being other people in there, but not only that, having the other people also being people that think that they're supposed to be there as a part of the test. So they're genuinely like trying to do this, whereas Shinichi thinks he's just coming in and he's supposed to kind of just give it this a little bit of a look here.
Right.
Is a brilliant test here, because it puts things into a situation where if anyone is a parasite in this setup here, it doesn't have to turn violent immediately.
Right. Well, and also I think they've previously done the hair test, so they would know that Shinichi at least isn't a traditional parasite if he's outed as a parasite. Like even if the serial killer guy isn't able to get that level of like complexity,
Sure.
They still have means of basically being like, there's something different here, because they know that the parasites take over the brain. So if the hairs aren't there, then like they could say, well, okay, where is the parasite, kind of a deal,
right? And since it's based on some kind of telepathic signals of some kind, like not really telepathic, but signals that there's like
that the parasites
emit, and then they can also receive. This guy being like Kana, for instance, can probably sense that there's something parasite-ish connected to Shinichi, but whether or not he's going to be able to sense detailed stuff of like, wait, but there's something different about you, because I can also tell the difference between a parasite signal and a human signal. So he's like, oh, yeah, you send off a human signal and you also send out a parasite signal, but everyone else that I've sent off that I've found out as being a parasite or a human, they're very defined, whereas yours is more blended. I need to know, and he probably gets more reward based on him giving as much data as possible.
Because he wants to prove himself useful and whatnot to reduce his life sentence and everything,
which is, I'd say, a logical assumption, even though we don't have any hard data on that.
But I'm guessing, like he's lucky to have not gotten the chair at this point.
Depending on how they do things there, for sure. He seems like the kind of person where it's like, you've done some pretty effed up stuff in your life, buddy,
and you would definitely go back to it if you were let out.
Probably. Huge character moment though at the park. Huge.
Yes.
Huge.
That was absolutely
the idea
great
that
for multiple characters.
We thought that this was going to be a thing of where the humans were going to screw it up,
and in a lot of ways they did.
They did, but we also thought it was going to be a thing of where Tamura Reiko would plead an effort to, at the very least, give some explanation for this. But she chooses so much of a like so much on a specific side of the spectrum of a response that in some ways it made everyone there probably question, wait, what is the difference between a parasite and a human? Because this is clearly a parasite. We've unloaded about 70 rounds into her. She's still standing. Yeah. She's protecting a human baby.
And she didn't try to fight back.
She didn't try to fight back. She didn't try to run.
From what we've seen of parasites, they could absolutely fight back. Like, yeah.
And let's think about this from her perspective, because I have to get inside her head a little bit, because I still don't fully get it. Like, there's a lot that I get, but there's a lot where I'm like, you had to have ran the scenarios and gone like, wait, there are probably slightly better ways this could go. Like, you don't have guarantees, of course, but was this the best way? Was this the way you wanted things to go?
Well, what I'm curious about, and where my mind's kind of spinning out with this, is that this was for the safety of her baby.
Yes, right? 100%.
And the idea that her own safety was not nearly as important as the safety of her child.
Yeah.
So there you go, right? And then also, it seems to be something where she's making a statement to all the humans gathered here.
Yep. And to Shinichi.
About, the idea that humans and parasites can coexist and things like that, right? Because she's not fighting back. Now, if she were to do something like that, I would think some words would also be helpful with the actions, just to sort of be like, hey, I'm not going to fight back. Like, something along those lines. But she did say all those things to Shinichi, and there's a good chance that the officers heard what she said. So
definitely.
I would hope so.
Definitely. If they want to go with she was whispering it quietly as it's just for Shinichi, I'm totally cool with that. But they had stopped firing at this point.
Right. So they were giving their apt attention.
Yes. So they're honed and
they're not
ready.
Thinking about anything else.
No. So what I'm guessing is they heard everything. She was saying this once they had stopped firing because they were now listening.
Sure.
So what she was attempting to do in her hardest of hearts was reach out to the humanity of anyone present. Shinichi specifically, that's why she changes into his mother. But what's important here, and I think that this is special here, is that what got her into this situation, I think for the most part, was that she started to connect humanity and the parasites in her observations and in her words and her actions. So then the other parasites went to go excommunicate and get rid of her. So she kills them. The investigator, of course, ends up, stalking her, basically finding out, being able to track her and stuff. Once things get to this situation where she has to then meet with Shinichi, she had predicted out the scenario where there's a high likelihood, an extremely high likelihood that she gets confronted by the government.
Right, because the investigator, it would make sense for him to have backup or something like that.
So at the very least, she would have to either kill more humans and then
the safety of the baby would be jeopardized.
The safety of the baby would be jeopardized. Or what she does is she takes things to a place where she knows she'll encounter him, the investigator, gets to, at the very least, interact with him and see if she can reach out to his humanity. He needed to go back to his family. He didn't want to be in this world anymore.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I feel like he wanted her to kill him because when something's as dangerous as that, you don't turn your back to them and then go to throw a baby off of a cliff, even as like a taunt to see if they'll do it. Because if you're doing that, you are expecting them to kill you.
Yeah. So he specifically wanted this to go this way, so that his investigation would mean something, but also so that he could resolve his broken heart, his feelings from this whole situation.
Right.
And she got pushed into a corner because she had to protect the baby.
In a way, it was his vengeance of sorts, even though he ended up dying in the process, of basically saying, I'm going to make it so that I die, but that this parasite is outed. Yeah. Right? And it could have gone much worse for him, towards that objective. But but she was outed. And she ended up being killed.
And this outed bit there, she had enough time to realize, I would rather be outed and have this baby be safe and have there be no suspect regarding this baby's like right. Imagine if they suspected the baby was a parasite in any way, shape, or manner, and they kept the baby in a lab for the rest of its life.
Yeah. I mean, they probably would have been able to determine that it wasn't a parasite.
Yeah,
but
probably,
she wouldn't know that.
But she has no guarantee of that.
Mm-hmm.
So she knows that Shinichi is the closest thing she has to humanity that she can rely on and trust. So she asks him to be there as backup.
Right.
He does end up being there as backup, but then she doesn't count on 20, or 15 cops showing up, or in, whatever federal
people there was.
Yeah. They show up, and she puts this, as okay, this is a wash. Mm-hmm. I can't win here without killing them all.
Right.
And that scenario leaves things to either where Shinichi might end up being my enemy. Because, because he's got his connections to humanity that he wants to remain tight.
And even if I manage to kill them, I won't necessarily be able to keep the baby safe.
Yep.
Because the thing is like, if she had fought back, right? We've seen what parasites do to people that approach with guns, even if they've got like combat armor and things like that. Doesn't matter. They're dead, right?
They're flesh sacks.
They're flesh sacks.
Poked and break.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's how it works.
That's how it be.
Right.
So this was not a question of whether or not she could fight back. It's the thing of
whether or not she
reasoned
would.
Yeah, she reasoned that it was the wrong move to do that. Mm-hmm. And it was so much so that she felt like she needed to send a message to everyone there by doing all the way on the other end of the spectrum, exact opposite thing. Sacrifice herself for the baby, do the most human thing that a mother should do, which is just cover your baby. Just don't let them hurt the baby. And I loved the little bits of animation where the bullets got really close and the little bits would like poke out and block it.
Yep.
Just showcasing how capable she was of doing exactly what she needed to do.
Right.
And then once the detective kind of snapped to it and realized, oh, wait, there's something bigger going on here. Stop firing. We need to observe for a second. We're not under any direct threat.
Right, and
because
if
we would have been killed already.
Right, and we've already wounded her plenty. She's probably going to die. Like, we've shot her 24 times.
And the words she then passes on to Shinichi and letting him know where she's at and how all of this is connected. We end up getting to see Shinichi break down and have his emotions and his empathy and all of the things that had been locked away either by the trauma regarding his mother or just at the very least the unresolved feelings that he had kind of squashed down because he just didn't want to handle them. Because I think they've been trying to bring up, and maybe I've been ignoring it up to this point, but that Shinichi never lost his emotions. Like, he never lost that side of his humanity. If anything, it was like was just something that
there was the changes that were happening in his body, but then multiplied on top of that as a second layer was the fact that he needed to deal with the trauma of being killed by his mother and then killing his mother.
Yeah.
Even though he wasn't the one who actually killed her, but still, yeah.
And now his mother basically comes up to him again and gives him. Gives him his humanity back and says, "You can move on from this." It's so
the fresh
simple.
Start, the hope for the better tomorrow. Yeah,
it's so simple. But if you think about it, then let's go into Shinichi's head for a second. Like, do you have any things to weigh in on this? I've been going on a tirade for a bit here.
The way they brought in all the little bits of foreshadowing that they had dropped in the show building up to this point was really nice. Like because it shows that like it felt like the show basically winking at the audience and being like, see, we've been planning this for a while, and this is kind of one of our big moments, in case just in case the actual impact of the right in case you didn't know, in case the impact of the scene wasn't enough. And then this is a really small, like, stupid detail, but which part? I love the fact that when Shinichi started crying, it wasn't from both eyes.
I agree, yeah.
Because for multiple reasons. One, I feel like that's more realistic, right? And oftentimes in in anime when the character starts crying, it's so like
over dramatic.
Yeah, and that can have like a negative connotation to it, but the idea that
it's so exaggerated.
Right, it's so exaggerated. It's all right, this is the part where the character cries, and this is the culmination of the emotions and everything.
Yeah.
But the idea that this is a messy crying without being messy. It's not him it's not like snotty crying, but it's uneven, right? Yeah, it's not clear cut. It's
a broken person crying.
Exactly. Yeah. I really liked that, and then because it also is like this nice metaphor for the fact that he has changed, but this is very much still there, and then what was the other thing?
I can pick it up if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
The bit where Shinichi starts to cry, you realize what all the characters start to kind of not really symbolize, but what they kind of mean in the longer form aspect of the story. Because if we assume any kind of happy ending here, like with the story as a whole, we look at Shinichi and we look at, the baby, a lot of these stories where they'll go into kind of meta philosophical kind of stuff here. The baby is usually the hope of the tomorrow, the bright future, and where everything can be daijoubu. Murano has had an odd role in the story, throughout. And when she shows up here, she had this moment that something pulled her back. There was this kind of vision of a mother, specifically like reaching out to her, and it kind of beckoned something within her, and she came back. Now
I'm pretty sure that was Kana.
I think that was
just straight up Kana.
I think that was Kana for sure. Yeah, but as to why it happened in the symbolic sense, I'm not talking about in the literal plot sense. In the symbolic sense, if you think about what's probably painful for someone like Shinichi is that he looks at this human baby, this hope for the future, and he goes, I can't have this. Like, this isn't mine. Like, okay. Like, it's something that while I'm so happy that, I was able to finally able to cry again. I was finally able to release all these emotions again. He probably has that little bit of him, and this is maybe reading to things way too much, but there's probably a little bit of him that goes, this isn't mine. Like, this isn't something that I can actually give a normal life to. And then someone like Murano shows up at that exact moment, asking him the questions like, "Are you back?" And he's like, "Well, my tears are." And that broke me, because he's not answering yes. She's asking him, "Are you back?" And he says, "Well, my tears are." So I don't know, that part hurt me a lot, because you think about what this baby needs, and it would need a full, Shinichi essentially, and Murano is the character that is kind of meant in the stories, I would say symbolic way, to bring Shinichi back. That is that reminder of humanity. Yeah. Exactly. And even then, when she asks him, he's not able to just answer with a simple yes. He has to clarify that it's because he's a hard logical being now. He won't lie in this case to her. Even in this moment of pure vulnerability, he states the truth.
Yeah, he's still changed, but he isn't. But that part of himself isn't gone.
But he's connected to humanity now. He has experienced that connection via this moment with Tamura Reiko, and also the baby, and then Murano, and all this stuff culminating in him crying, showcasing that he's not lost, but he hasn't been fully found yet. So I think that there's something there to where if they want to have the happy ending, Shinichi has to have it with Murano now. That's just
yes, definitely, which fits in with the opening just perfectly.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to say.
The fact that they had Kana, like the spirit of Kana, basically get Murano's attention.
Yeah.
that could be just sort of like a metaphorical type thing, but it's pretty hard for me to not take that as a more literal thing, which is, okay, then maybe Murano does have, you know, a sort of Shinichi sense or Parasite sense like Kana did, which would definitely change things. I would love to see why those people have those abilities and capabilities and stuff. Well,
we had a theory about this previously, remember? The
what?
Theory that while people are getting fully invaded by parasites, there's a possibility that the parasites on a small, low cellular level just went into the air and people are just breathing that crap in.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And that's what happened to Kana. She just breathed in accidentally too much parasite cells.
Well, yeah, like you could even straight up have it be like a pheromones thing where it's like, you know,
totally.
that's it. You breathed enough parasite pheromones that that now, you know, okay, you know, there you go.
That actually might be the end game of the show, is they go that it's not that people are going to get fully invaded by parasites, is that humanity as a whole will have its collective unconscious fully connected via the parasite DNA being disseminated out into the atmosphere, and then we all just slowly acclimate to it and then continue to evolve with it.
Sure.
And then slowly over time, humanity just becomes a more connected species.
Right.
And somewhat just incorporates that aspect of the parasites into themselves. And we just continue marching forward.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a really, like, intense, like, kind of almost dark way to do it, because the parasites would be made extinct, essentially, over a small period of time.
I mean, they are going to be already, as far as we know, because we have not seen any way that parasites are able to reproduce. So their time is limited, you know. Because when they do reproduce, you know, like, unless what they take specifically,
they form a habitat of specifically like a small group of them, and,
or they specifically invade like the sexual organs of humans to replace those, so that way when the humans reproduce, it's like a parasite baby or something. Like, I don't know.
Well,
but
we know that this baby has nothing parasite about it,
right?
So that's as of a, you know,
Yep. Yeah. The flesh mechs that are piloted by the parasites still make little flesh mech babies.
Yep. Great.
But there's a part of me. So I'm torn a little bit, because I love what they did with Ryoko here. I love the whole thing of the mom protecting the baby. I love all of that. There's a part of me, though, that really wanted there to be more from her, like for her to not, like, for her story
she's the
in
best
the show.
Parasite character.
Yeah.
That's why.
Right. Yeah.
She's just the best Parasite character.
Yeah, and I guess
most of them
that's
aren't that much characters, really.
Right, and that's,
I mean,
probably,
other than the wholesome boy from that one town. What was his name?
Uda.
Thank you.
But even then, like, he's not really like he's very much a tertiary character at best, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess that's just the sign that, like, you know, when a character exits the story, that they were a good character in the story, and it's you know, normal to have those bittersweet feelings and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It does feel kind of strange that, like, I feel like most of the, like, there have been a let's just say the female cast is just Murano at this point. like all the other main female characters in the story have gotten killed off, which feels a little bit like, okay, well, you know, I guess no more.
We can just bring in more characters, though.
I mean, probably not, because there's only like 4 episodes left. But and you know, it's only 4 episodes left. But I guess at the beginning, before I saw what was being done with her death, I was a little bit like, it seems kind of weird that she's dying here, because it seems like, you know, something where it's like, no, you can get out of this, but then that's part of the sacrifice, you know. But now, oh man, now Shinichi's in a pickle.
So,
and, like,
we've got a situation where he's in deep.
Yeah.
And he's not going to get violent here. He's Shinichi.
Right. Like,
but if he gets outed, there's multiple things that can happen, but he can also get outed multiple ways. It's not necessarily a thing where he gets outed as a full-blown parasite.
Yep.
He could end up having this person here going into a little bit of a, like, I'm going to provoke you into like sending the signal back at me.
Or
and it could be it could be like here's something I would find really silly. I don't think it would work, but imagine Shinichi as being one of the like strongest parasites he's ever encountered, or basically being so strong because of the blending of human and parasite that he asks him to look him in the eye, and then Shinichi looks him in the eye and he can't help it, but he subconsciously sends the like I'm the strongest kind of signal back, like I'm the real predator here. And then
the guy's so scared that he
goes submissive and he goes, yeah, it's nothing. I just thought I sensed something, but move along.
Yeah.
And then the government people are like, hold up, we saw something happen. Yeah. We can't explain it, but you need to tell us. And he goes, no, there's nothing. Like,
and one of the things that I that I would really want to happen here is for Shinichi to be outed. But the thing is that with how detailed they've been in the expressiveness or lack thereof of parasites up till this point, and how Shinichi's been, that even if the guy doesn't differentiate and he just says this guy's a parasite, oh my god, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't like a fifth grader could be like, yeah, but he's obviously different from those other people that we've seen and whatnot. Like, there's like, this is something that warrants investigation. Now, granted, humans do, crazy things when they're scared and stressed and whatnot, right? But I would hope that this doesn't go the kind of the cheap way that things can go usually in more earlier on in stories like this, where it's the okay, now this person's an enemy, what do we do, and then that kind of fear, yeah, and then that kind of melodrama comes from that, and there's
it's not melodrama.
Well, right, there's a reason that they think that, but there's oftentimes it's. I mean, it's not melodrama because
it just requires less effort to write that,
right?
And we are used to seeing that kind of story.
Right. For the level of creativity that this show has, I would hope that they wouldn't just go for sort of the easy response.
Yeah, and I don't think that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't think they will either.
I think what they're doing here is, hey, we've got some subtle world building things that we're just kind of casually dropping at the end of this episode, and one of them is that. Not only does the government know plenty about the parasites, they've encountered probably plenty of parasites before, because this guy's proven himself to be able to do this.
Well, they were saying this would be the proof.
Oh,
and that's why they had the other people in there too.
But
because this test was really.
But how did they know that he can? Why would they take his claim seriously if he hasn't had at least one other thing under his belt before this? It's stupid to think, though.
Oh, yeah, right.
Like, he's obviously outed at least one person. Like, even if it's not an outed of a parasite, he's determined that his psychic whatever abilities mean something.
Right, and they give it enough credence to have him do this at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's a very real thing that he has that they've at least done for him. So maybe it's not a parasite. Maybe what they did was they had a thing where they're like, wait, we studied his brain, and there is something that he's doing. And when he bounced into maybe another person that had the similar kana type telepathy, they were like, oh,
something happened. Yeah.
And we're dealing with this parasite problem, and this could be related.
Right.
So now we'll bring you to someone that we think is an actual parasite.
Right. Or we don't know what they are, kind of thing. So what do you get off of them?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing. If they're in that standpoint of things, I would give the government a little bit more credence by saying that, they don't even know if Shinichi's a parasite. They could actually be thinking that he's got something that parasites find
he's
attractive.
Got the kana sense. Yeah, exactly. And I like that they brought that up, because it's like, oh yeah, that's a great point. Like, if they're like, well, the hair thing, said that he's not a parasite, but he's still around all these parasites.
Right.
Oh, and the detective said that he was a human, and we're pretty sure he was talking about Shinichi. Oh yeah, he's probably one of those people that have the magnetic, thing or whatever.
Yeah, maybe it's that, like, the government doesn't even know how parasites are made or even come about. So they're like, maybe there's even some kind of incubation stage where, like, Shinichi is in the early stages of getting, like, taken over or something like that. I mean, so yeah, who knows? Yeah. But Shinichi could get found out next episode.
I would almost be surprised if he wasn't found out, unless it was from the thing of the guy being like, nope, this is this guy's good, or oh yeah, he's like me, he's safe, but yeah,
he could lie.
Mm-hmm.
He could lie and think like, oh dang, that is a point that they kind of brought up in this episode. This creeper guy, they kind of gave him a lot of screen time to showcase that he's actually important to the plot,
right? Like, yeah, and believe that this guy exists, kind of a thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But what if it's a thing of where, no, this guy is actually going to be somewhat of a character beyond just a plot device for the showcasing of the kana thing being more widespread than just, kana, but also like he's probably going to make some kind of a connection with Shinichi, even if he outs Shinichi. So
sure. Yeah.
I don't know. That could be kind of interesting, where they have them like sit in the room together for maybe a little bit longer, and they're like, "Hey, just talk to each other a little bit, because there's something there that's unique." And then Shinichi's like, "Okay, calm down."
Sure.
And Miggy's like,
or
Shinichi, this is bad. This is bad. He's like, no, calm down. We've got this. We can do this.
Right. What I'm wanting to see is the conversation with the main detective after Shinichi's outed, in whatever level that he's outed, right? Because eventually the secret's probably going to come out that yes, he's a parasite, and because in some ways they kind of want that to come out, because they have established that it is possible for parasites and humans to coexist,
right?
And the only way to really out that information as being a thing is from a parasite, because otherwise how would anyone else know, right? And that conversation with the detective, and to see how they act, because the whole idea of parasites and humans working together is pretty crazy, right?
Really crazy.
There's all the foundational stuff out there to make it happen if they talk through it, but they need to talk through it, and that's a bit of an awkward conversation to have.
And then you have to slowly bring other people, humans, into that fold.
Right. Yep.
In a way to where you don't get one person with a lot of executive power and fear that just kind of goes, nope, I override all the things.
Clearly we can't trust,
I am the human that is meant to do this.
What, sir? The evidence. I will use facts and logic to convince why we would be an asset to you. F logic. Fire the cannon.
Oh my god, every story with a superpower or an other type aspect of humanity, they're like, we don't like what we don't understand, in fact it scares us. 50
Frenchmen can't be wrong.
Right.
Like
it is an aspect of humanity, and
definitely
that is what rules a huge portion of the way we do things. Is fear.
Right.
But if this is a story about how we kind of move beyond that, in fact, we actually kind of incorporate things that take us beyond that.
Yeah.
That's a really intense bit. But
yeah, because basically humanity's kind of forced to go back to the tribal elements, because there's this new tribe that moved into town, and it's kind of causing a lot of trouble, right? And then it's
just a little bit,
just a little bit, So, but maybe they could get along, and if they could get along, then awesome, great things can happen. But until that point, it's things could get a little barbaric.
Just a bit.
I mean, they already have.
They built up Goto again.
Yes.
And they gave us some info that he was created in a lab, or created not in a lab, he was an experiment.
Right.
And I don't know what that means, because what I'm assuming it means is that Tamura Reiko was testing the possibility of hopping from one host to the other for parasites. So she helped the other two parasites that ended up fusing with Goto, because Goto was 3-in-1, and then there were two others that didn't do that well.
Yeah.
When Miki was the pilot.
Yes.
But then once Goto was the pilot, all 5 of them worked together in unison very well.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that was the experiment, probably, right?
Sure.
But the fact that she makes it seem like his origin was an experiment, meaning that the original Goto might have been.
Well, I think it was that she got them all into the same host, which that was actually the when she mentioned Goto again, that was actually the thing that made me that caused me to be a bit more upset when she ended up dying, is because when they introduced her early on and she kept being a recurring character, I had this idea of she's going to be the main antagonist of the story, right? And she'll have her own like arc that she's on and everything, and you know, she'll get developed and whatnot. But I was kind of like looking forward to that as a dynamic. But then, you know, and then now that it's shifting to Goto, when he hasn't been around as long as Tamura Reiko, that was just one of those things where I was like, oh, okay. But
I think he represents maybe what will end up being the fear of the parasites.
Right,
their
exactly.
oblivion, their extinction.
Yep, they have survival instincts. Yeah.
So they're going to band together. Think about like Goto as being like the, you know, like I am Legion, for we are many.
Yeah, he's the future of the parasites
that are afraid.
That you're right, of just the parasites.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and in some ways, I would like them to fight. Like, obviously, let them fight. Mm-hmm. But I think the way that they end this story in a happy way is Goto surrenders, basically, and basically goes, hey, we can do this. And they all separate. And they all basically go out and realize that they're going to have to, you know, disseminate into humanity or just... I don't know. Maybe Shinichi will take them on. I don't know.
And one of the things that we've gotten from Parasites so far, even before they did the whole thing of them having like human emotions and things like that, was the idea that they very much had their own distinctive personalities. And I don't feel like like whether you're talking about, you know, Uda's, you know, mouth parasite, you know, talking and like, you know, like TV against the speak or whatever.
Yes, they might have been connected originally to some kind of overall directive or what have you, but they're no longer connected. Right. So they have individuality.
Right, they have individuality even if they don't have emotions, and it's a hard thing to find the balance between those two, but it felt like each parasite sort of had their own like way of doing things, like they had their own like style and whatnot, and
probably based on environmental input.
Right, exactly. So it felt like each one was very much a character, even if they didn't have, you know, empathy and things like that and whatnot, right? And in the case of Goto, maybe it's just because we haven't seen too much of him as far as like characterization, like decision making and stuff. Like we've seen plenty of him action wise, right? Great. From that standpoint, he's solid, right?
And he was built up. Even though we didn't have a name attached to him really, or we didn't really have a character attached to him
when he invaded the Yakuza
compound,
right?
We realized that he was building up his survival capacity, and training himself against, you know, live,
which we now realize was actually 5 parasites doing that.
At least 3. I don't know if it was 5 necessarily at that point.
I mean, yeah, that's true. They could have added more over time.
But yeah, it was at least 3 and potentially 5. Yeah, which is crazy to think about. Yeah,
but I would love to see, since he's now the primary antagonist, basically, I would love to get some characterization from him in the episodes leading up to whatever the final conflict with him is.
Yeah, we'll definitely get that.
Yeah,
I think we'll definitely get that. The one part though that they left off in a cliffhanger, but I don't know if she actually communicated that to Shinichi, was she said the mayor, Hirukawa or whatever his name was, is, and then it just ... and then the cops showed up. So did she communicate something to Shinichi, or was she going to say something to Shinichi, and she got cut off because
if it's simply that she was trying to communicate that he's a parasite, I mean, Shinichi already knew that.
That's true. But maybe it's more of he is planning blah blah blah.
Sure, and that's where it could come in. Yeah, so Goto, right? Okay, this makes me feel a lot better about it because then Goto isn't the main antagonist; he's the dragon that's serving the main antagonist, right? And then basically it's the thing of where he's the super badass that is the
Darth Vader,
right? He's the Darth Vader, the enforcer, the executor of the mayor's will.
That doesn't mean
right?
we have a Palpatine. That just means that we have him working on behalf of his people. You know,
but then it's something where we know that there is someone with intentions, goals, and things like that, more than just bettering themselves as far as combat and survivability.
Well, my goal that I could easily just kind of transpose into Goto is just that he wants to protect his people.
Yep, exactly.
It's rather simple. So he needs to be strong in order to do that.
Right.
And the mayor is just one of his people in this case, just someone who's maybe the person who's thinking about how the parasites will have a future habitat that it'll keep them safe.
Yeah, this sort of the visionary for what their survival will look like, not just their ability to make sure that they're taking care of themselves.
Great. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and that's where we can have some good direction for the opposing force, so that way when the conflict happens, however it looks like, whether we're talking combat or discussions or whatever,
we
know what they're after and what they want, so that way when the conflict is resolved in whatever way it's resolved, it's satisfying because we know where it's coming from.
And the ideals of both the human species, Shinichi, and the parasites, be it Goto or the mayor or both, if they end up merging, will end up being communicated across channels somewhat.
Right.
Because I feel like that's important in order to have a true happy ending, quote unquote, here for, at the very least, humanity.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff this episode. Quite the packed episode.
Yeah.
Really excited that we've moved into basically what I would assume to be the final act of the story.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 4 episodes left, so yeah.
Y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and the discussion, which is just quite a lot to discuss. So if you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length reactions there. And all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us and the community about these stories, about anime in general. And you can also talk with Jake about the book he wrote.
Yes, because you totally haven't heard about this before. My sci-fi novel, Battle Lines, is available for purchase on Amazon. The link's in the description below. Go check it out. Check out the reviews on there to see what people thought. If you do get it, make sure to leave your own review to let the next person know what you thought.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.